Hello, my name is Emily Adams, and I'm going to record a little message about why I am supporting Ian Golden for Congress. And speaking on camera is not my natural way of doing things. This is actually what I normally do, which is write long things. So I'm going to try not to read that, and I'm going to try to cover all the points that I have in that little essay, and wish me luck. I came up with 5 reasons that I think are the most relevant and important for why I think Ian is better than the other candidates. All the other candidates have strengths, and it's really hard to choose, and I can't blame anyone for having trouble figuring out which way to go. Platforms are all very similar, but the 5 things that I think make a difference between those candidates are these. One is the person really progressive? I think Ian is definitely progressive because he's been doing things before it became useful and uh, popular to put those things in your resume. He supported the Black Oak wind farm way before that became trendy. He's been paying his employees living wage way before that became like an issue. What other things? He's always been for public schools. What did I write down here? Oh, and he was for Bernie Sanders when Bernie Sanders was at 3%. And it was very not cool to come out and take a stand. He was the only businessman on the Commons who would put up a sign for Bernie in his window. And he actually let the Bernie people come and use his office in the back for our first meetings, which was great. So he was ahead of the curve on being progressive. That was number 1. Number 2, Ian has empathy. And empathy is under valued, I think, a lot. And if you're going into politics and you're going to represent people, yes, it's good if you have expertise in some area, and it's good if you've had experience, you know how to do things, you know how to set up your support team and research policies, and you've got some legal background. Yeah, that can all be useful. But if you don't have empathy, then you end up being like some people we know in office right now. And that's a horrible situation to be in. If you've got empathy and you don't have the other things, you can get somebody else to come in and give you advice, if you're assuming you're humble enough to listen to advice. So you don't have to be an expert on every topic out there if you know the right people and you know to ask them and you're humble enough to get their opinions. And empathy will let you relate to the people that you're supposed to be representing if you're in elected office. So if Ian is not a rich person, he's not a lawyer, he's not a doctor, it's not terrible to be those things, but because he's a working class person and he's had to work 3 jobs to make ends meet sometimes, and he's got young kids, he's worried about their health, he's worried about the climate and the future that his kids will have, he's going to relate to the average voters out there. And I think that sets him apart from some of the other candidates. Number 3, Ian is, sometimes I didn't think I would ever say this about someone, but I think he's honest to a fault. He just won't do anything if he doesn't think that it's like totally with integrity and looking out for the people he's supposed to be looking out for. And the example that I put in my little writing here is he ran all around the district to get to know the district back in the beginning, a year ago, more than a year ago, when he got into this race. And it was a 400-mile run, as I recall. And lots of it was just through country roads, big empty fields on both sides, bits of woods, all the stuff. Nobody, not a soul out there. And he was running, and his support team was going along in the car to help him out if there was a problem, whatever. He wouldn't get in the car and drive with them for 1 mile or something in order to take a break from the rain or to get to the town that they were going to a little early so he could catch his breath. And no, he said he was going to run, so he ran the whole thing. Because he said if he didn't do that and someone asked him later, did he really run the whole thing? He would have to lie and say yes. And he didn't want to lie because he says he's not good at it. So he knew he had to do the whole thing so he would never have to lie about it. So that kind of honesty, man, hats off for that. Number 4, and I think this is a really important one that people in Ithaca tend to forget. I come from a family of academics. I love academics. I love science. All that. That's great. People outside of Ithaca have some things that are more valuable to them in general than that kind of thing. And that is perfectly valid. And if we start as a party and as candidates saying things like, oh, those deplorable people out there who aren't intelligent, they don't understand science, they don't believe in climate change, or they don't vote their own interests, and all these things are put downs. And I don't blame people if they get put down for just saying no. I mean, logic can only go so far. If you've been offended by someone, you're going to vote against your own interests, or you're going to vote just to say the hell with you. So I think this is a really important point, that Ian is not an academic. He doesn't talk like an academic. Okay, he lives in Ithaca. Ithaca is the land of academics. But he goes outside of Ithaca and he meets with people, and he actually does much better with them outside of Ithaca than he does in Ithaca, because he's just a regular guy kind of person when he interacts. And even he interacts that way with children, which I think is amazing, that he can call on children who are at a meet and greet and say, well, what do you think about that? And everybody in the room can feel that he's not talking down to them. He's genuinely interested in the child's point of view on what's going on around them. And then number 5 I wrote is that Ian has youthful energy and a positive attitude. He's focused on solutions. He's not focused on, placing blame or doing this sort of red meat thing of linking Reed to Trump. I mean, he hardly ever talks about Trump, which I think is a good thing. Because it's not about, red or blue. It's not about Democrat, Republican. It's not. The more you can get away from the partisanship, the more we can actually get somewhere, I think. In other parts of the country, if you're in a district that's very blue, you don't have to reach out and be conciliatory to people on the other side. But here you do have to be that way. And it's actually a good thing, in my opinion. Ian talks about things that everybody relates to. Everybody wants their kids to be able to either go to college or vocational school, end up and have a good job. Everybody wants to drink water that's safe. That you can cross those boundaries if you have the right language. And there are some other candidates out there who have, frankly, I think, put themselves in a bad situation. If they end up being the nominee against Tom Reed is going to be able to show videos and things of them being very divisive, very much sort of in your face towards the people that we need a good part of them to vote for the Democratic candidate, or we won't win. So I think that makes Ian uniquely valuable and viable as a candidate in the general election. I hope he makes it through the primary. I'm doing everything that I can on my side, and I hope you guys who are watching this will think about doing the same thing. And that brings me to the end. If you want to see my whole actual essay, I've put it on my Facebook profile. Thank you. Bye-bye.